Good afternoon. It's John again to play a little bit of Immaculate Grid. Still catching up from time I was over the last few days over the weekend. Like I said in some of my other videos, my wife gave birth to our first son, so I was out for a couple days. I'll try to get caught up here. I think I've got two more to make up, but I'm gonna get into it right now. I've had a couple good games, but I'm like. I think I've had five or six like straight up losses over my last dozen or so games. Baseball Reference is changing up the categories, so trying to adapt over here. But I'll start sharing. I guess one thing I can do is I could just go here and hit, because I guess I did 204 or 203. So now I do 204. Yeah, okay. Ooh, we got born outside of the United States, 50 states, and DC, which means Puerto Rico or like Guam, I suppose, would work. But if it's 50 states in DC, it wouldn't work. Okay. And we just need someone who meets that category and then matches with the Cardinals, Pirates, and Mariners, along with we get the Braves, and we have a 300 batting average for a season. All right. I've had a I've had a lot of luck saying Joey Cora down here. I'm sure there's a pitcher who's gone 1 for 2 or an interleague play or something, but Joey Cora hit almost exactly 300 in 1997, so hitting that. Coming up on 1% though. Maybe I should find someone else. We'll see. Um, let's see. And then I want to say, yeah, there should be a decent answer here. About for this one, I believe John McGraw works. Those right years. Yeah, that's Hall of Fame manager John McGraw takes 0.006%. That's a pretty good start on him. So total I have 0.606 between the two players. Let's see. Pirates for 300 season. Um, Stay away from some obvious ones like Clemente and Honus Wagner. Archie Vaughn, though, he might be an all right pick. Kiki Kuehler or possibly Coiler. No one's actually corrected me on that one yet, so it's one of them, or maybe it's not. But anyway, I know he'll work. That might actually be a better. Let's just dial him in here. He goes 0.1. Let's see. I know for Atlanta and Seattle, I've tried using um Ken Griffey Sr. before. But I mean, the story of him hitting a home run after his son is a pretty famous one. So, and I do have an 88 Tops, which is a prominent card brand, has its own podcast even. I've that card of Ken Griffey with the Atlanta Braves, so I won't go that route. Trying to think of who else though would be a good pick there. Mike Hampton will work. What do we think of Mike Hampton? He started his career in Seattle. Takes 2%. All right. Then Atlanta and Pittsburgh. Why not? We know he's always good for a decent score. Frank Thomas the first. He is creeping up though, 0.3 now. And then let's see, Atlanta and St. Louis. Terry Pendleton works. Rogers Hornsby, of course, works. Um, let's see. Ron Gant and Reggie Sanders will both work. Jason Marquis will work. Let's try him out. See how. In some ways, it's just sort of a litmus test for the early 2000s. He does go sub one. All right, and then we need. So I mean, here's like unless someone has a very prominent story, I mean they could have you know a Hispanic or Japanese last name, but I'm not necessarily gonna know with any kind of certainty um where they were born. So like and now in this case, Clemente would work for born outside the US 50 states and DC because Puerto Rico is not a state, even though it is part of the United States. Um but like it just as an example, I'm not actually sure where Albert Pujols was born. I know he's represented Dominican Republic in the World Baseball Classic. I think he probably was born there, but I know he also spent like his high school years, I want to say, in Kansas City, or the greater Kansas City area. But I think he would work, but I think that'd be a little too obvious. Orlando Cepeda might be a better pick. I'm quite sure he'll work. Let's see how popular a pick that is. 2%. All right. I think I'm gonna go with Suzuki for Seattle. Oh, Makoto. I want to go with Makoto's spoiler alert, not Ichiro. Max Suzuki is how they've got it on there. He goes 0.1. And then because I think Max Suzuki, I want to say he was the second ever Japanese uh or maybe he was the first ever Japanese player in the American League. Something like that. Because I think Hideo Nomo was the first since um what's player for the Giants in the 60s. I'm blanking on his name. I think Hideo Nomo was the first since that player. The Max Suzuki played a little bit in the very next season, the 96 season with Seattle. And I do have a card of him. He also played for the Brewers. I'll say 02-ish. Sound right? And then yeah, let's think Pittsburgh Pirates. Um like as an example, I'm not sure exactly where Pedro Alvarez was born. I don't know where Jose Guillen was born. Um but if they're really obvious, like Clemente, I know it'll be a low rarity score. Um any prominent Canadian players like Larry Walker would have worked here for St. Louis. Manny Sanguin, Jose Linds. But again, I'm not 100% sure on them on where they grew up. In fact, they very easily could have been from the U.S. or from the U.S. 50 states. Get someone with just the right amount of certainty and obscurity. Freddie Sanchez, where was he born? I legitimately have no idea. All right, well, I'm gonna take a shot and may or may not be right. Manny Sanguin did work. He was 4%, so that was not as sneaky a pick as I thought it was. I didn't know him with a whole lot of certainty, but obviously there's 300 people, or not obviously, but there is 300 people to choose from. You just have to kind of know where they're at. Um, okay. Um, yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm just gonna see a bunch of names and a bunch of them is like, oh, okay, I guess makes sense, makes sense, makes sense. But it's not like I don't actually have any idea where Manny Sanguin was born. No clue. Anyway, fun as usual. I'll get this uploaded and then I'll play today's grid and be back at tomorrow. Thanks a lot for playing once again. Episodes brought to you by my book, Baseball's Most Fun Frivolities, which is on Amazon, and the link will be in the description. Thanks a lot for playing. Peace.